if you just want to tell us your name,
First name, Kelly.
Awesome. So we'll just get straight into the questions. First, thank you for doing this. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. Can you just tell us a little bit about your childhood?
My childhood. Oh, okay. I was.
The hat.
You want me to take the hat?
Or you can just put it up.
You want it off?
If off, I mean you can put it higher.
I can just take it off.
Is better.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so I was born to two. My dad was 19, my mom was 18, and he joined the service. So I was born in Fort Knox on an army base, and then we went to Germany 6 months later. Did that for a couple years, and then my parents went back to their cul-de-sac, and my mom went back to the bottom of the hill, my dad went back to the top of the hill, and I grew up with my grandparents and my mom. I mean, I know who my dad is, obviously, but he just wasn't ever really part of my life. So then my mom got into grad school, so we moved, me and her, packed up the U-Haul, went to Las Cruces, New Mexico. Did that for a couple years, and then she got hired at Microsoft. So then we went to Seattle, and in that time period, my mom had to work at IBM for a little while, and rent was really expensive, so my dad came back for 3 months, and we got my little sister, hooray! But then he went back to his life, and so basically I helped raise my little sister, who's 11 years younger than me. So we moved to Seattle when I was in 7th grade, and I think Allison was like 1 or 2. And my mom started working for Mr. Gates, and my life was not as easy as some of my friends' lives. There was a lot of, not going to softball because I had to watch Allison, or not really being allowed to go out because my mom basically needs me at home, or, doing grocery runs and stuff like that. So I think I just always had a lot of responsibility from a young age. But it's kind of made me into the person that I am today. And I don't think that I would be as outgoing as I am. I don't believe that I would have went away to college. I think I would have stayed home and always kind of, been with my mom. And so it really forced me to kind of expect and want more and work for it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What were your dreams as a child?
So I wanted to be a clown or a doctor. And it was the two, and it was a really hard decision to figure out which one I wanted to be. And so now it's funny because I'm a relatively jolly person. I make people laugh, and I work in wellness, and so it's something that I'm not really a doctor, but I do care about people's well-being for sure.
Would you mind just telling us a little bit more about your relationship with your dad and how that relationship generally felt?
Ooh. I always felt very unimportant to my father because I wasn't a boy, and basically he just never stuck around, and I think had I been a boy he would have. And he was relatively non-existent growing up and never contributed financially to my life ever. So I've never got any child support, and I've never really experienced a father-daughter relationship. And I don't think a lot of people really realize when you come from a military family on both sides, there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of pain there. And so that transitioned into my mom's relationship with me, and it sucked. And kind of seeing what my family could have been had he stuck around, it's some of the things that we've been through because he didn't stick around. It's not easy to remember. It's not happy to talk about, but I mean, I just know a lot of girls have had it worse. And I would rather have him gone than in my house, beating up my mom, making me feel less important because he won't come to my basketball games because I'm not a boy. That's not, I didn't grow up like that. My family doesn't act like that. So who he is and what's important to him is not what's important to me, and that's not what's important to my family. And I think drugs and alcohol were always more important than me, my mom, and my sister. So I'm not second fiddle to anything or anyone. And so because of my mom's strength, I have that backbone that I don't need a relationship with my father. At this point, I really don't. I don't even want one anymore. I gave it my last ditch effort. His mom is passing away. She has cancer, and she's not doing well. And I was in Arizona helping my little sister move, and I drove the U-Haul down, and like we were bringing her back up, and I was like, you know what, we should try and reach out to Tom. I'm like, we're here. I'm like, Loretta's dying. I'm like, we need to reach out to him. And my mom and sister are just like, no. And I'm still that bleeding heart that's like, but that's my dad. You know what I mean? And it doesn't matter how shitty of a person he is and still acts. I'm an adult now. So I'm turning 34 next week on the 28th. So it's my world, and it's my little sister, and I don't want her to grow up thinking that that's okay to not check on your grandmother, you know?
How did that feel growing up, and then how did it feel when you did try and reach out and it didn't?
I think growing up, my grandmother, my mom's mom, she's from Wales, and she really protected me from all of this. So I didn't really start to like understand the dynamics of our families until much later. And I think that, you know, they just kept me really busy with school and sports, so I didn't necessarily have all these heavy feelings until later when I really needed him. And when me and my mom were out on our own, and that family has since passed away, those grandparents are gone, my aunt's gone. So I needed him later in life. And wait, what was the question? I'm sorry.
How did it feel like? So then how did it feel needing him and him not being there?
I mean, it always feels different. It always kind of it feels different based on what kind of situation I'm in. But I think one moment where I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. He basically let me become homeless. Him and my mom have each let me become homeless in my life, and like have just let it happen. And so when that happened, I was just like, okay, I'm done giving away any power or any of my heart or any of my tears or anything to you, because you have shown me where I matter, and I matter down here. And so therefore there is no more relationship, and there's no more drive or desire or dating guys like my dad. You know, I've really grown out of all of those stereotypes, and at this point I don't even want to know him. Like it feels good to be over it. It feels good to know who I am and to be proud of who I am. And it felt great walking across the stage when I graduated, because I put myself through school. My mom never gave me a single dime. I mean, my mom takes money from me still. And like, used to work for Bill Gates. So like my parents aren't the most helpful. But I mean, my mom has never left me. And my mom, even when I've been homeless, my mom thinks she's proving a point, I guess. It's not for me to be someone's mother and be mentally ill. Like, it's not my pack to carry. So I try and separate myself from them as much as I can. I don't live near my family. I mean, I'm currently living with my mom because of the pandemic. I had to go home when my industry closed. But I am on my way out of living with my mom, and I think we'll just, keep our healthy boundaries. Living together after what we've been through together is not in the cards. But yeah, as far as Tom Wolf goes, I mean, I even changed my last name. My last name is Kelly Callan, which is short for Kalinowski, which are those grandparents that I talked about who aren't here anymore. I'm not even Kelly Wolf. I don't even identify with that name. I mean, if I saw him walking down the street, I can honestly say I might not notice that it was my dad.
What about the relationship with your mom and how that feels?
So me and my mom are 17 and a half years apart, 18 years apart. And let's just say my little sister has a very different mom than the mom that I have and the mom that I grew up with. And so I cherish those younger years with my mom. I really do. We've seen a lot. We've done a lot. We've laughed a lot. We've cried a lot. We've done it all. As an adult, we're struggling with our relationship for sure. I think, like I said, had he stuck around and had my stepfather, my mom's second husband, not passed away, like had some of these things not happened, I think we'd have a very different relationship. but unfortunately they did. And so the cookie crumbles where it crumbles. I don't know that saying, you know what I mean? May the cookie crumble, whatever. Like, it goes where it goes, and you just have to keep working on it. And my mom, I'll never give up on, and I think she knows that. Like, I would never put my mom in a home. You're probably going to watch this. I'm not going to put you in a home. However, I'm not going to live in the same house as you, because that's just really unenjoyable for me. Yeah, my parents, they're just characters. And I think my dad and my mom, it's sad because it's like the love of her life. And I don't know, they're really cute together when they're nice to each other. And it's just sad. It's not an easy relationship to talk about. No one ever asks me about it, so I really never talk about it. But yeah, they like really love each other, and it sucks because they're just so bad together. But I know that there is a lot of love there, and it created me and my sister, so I don't think all of it was that bad.
What would you say are the biggest things you learned from your parents, good or bad?
Well, neither of my parents put up with shit. And so I have been in a couple of relationships that have unfortunately turned kind of abusive. And I come from like an abusive, pairing. So I don't think it's something that they meant to transfer onto me, but it's something that whether I'm consciously aware of it or not, I've kind of brought into my life. However, with my mom's strength and her determination to kind of get me and my sister out of that space in Pennsylvania with him and like into a much better life, I think she really taught me that you never follow a man. You never give all of your cards to anyone. Like, basically just really learn how to be self-sufficient on your own. And if you don't know something, take a class, learn how to do it. Like, Google it. Like, use your brain, Kelly. You know how to fix this. And you know how to make this a better place. Because my mom thinks that my brain is more beautiful than a lot of things in this world. And that's something that no one can ever take away from me, is the things that my mom has given me through my education, through my experiences. Not letting me go out a lot in high school and maybe making me go to museums and stuff. That kind of thing. Like, she's always had our best interest at heart. And I think with my dad, I've learned that you can kind of be a rebel. You don't have to do what everyone says that you have to do. You don't have to necessarily marry someone that you don't get along with. You can ride a motorcycle and smoke cigarettes if you want to. Like, you can literally do whatever you want to do, Kelly, because, the way I look at it, like, my grandfather, he stormed the beach of Normandy and survived. Like, my grandfather almost died for us to even have the chance of being here. So whatever I do, like, I'm going to do it, and it's through them. It's because of them that I'm here. So it doesn't have to be perfect. I think the best stories aren't perfect. I think it makes it life. And that's why we have the stories that we tell. Sorry, I'm just like, I'm like a crier, so I'm like not sad. I don't want them to like think I'm like super sad. I'm just like,
should I go get tissue?
No, I'm totally fine, because the tissues mess up the makeup. It's all about the blot.
So the next question is, can you tell us about your first love, and it's whatever you associate as your first love. It can be
wow.
It can be a person, and how that first love felt.
Wow. Okay. I would say my first love, and everyone who knows me is going to know I'm going to say this, is his name's, I won't even say his name. He who must not be named. Okay. He knows who he is. I met him my freshman year of college, and I knew I was in love with him probably and this is very true of me, and this has happened several times before. It is like instant. And it's one of those things where it's happened 2 times before, like after that, because I'm 34 now, so yeah, I've been dating for a while, but yeah, love at first sight is something that has happened to me before, and so he really was one of them. The funny part is when we first met, we took a picture together, and I was wearing a hat that says "shit happens,"
Yeah.
And then you look back on it and you're like, oh, yeah, shit does happen. He ended up cheating on me with one of the girls in the sorority across the street from me. Broke my heart. I was like home in Santa Monica. My mom was like, oh my God, like, this is horrible. Kelly's like, this is like, she's coming unglued. So yeah, it was terrible. And then a couple years later, we like started talking again. He went through something like really personal and like suicide attempt, and I reached out to him, and he basically said, he's like, never in a million years did I think I would hear from you of all people. He's like, but honestly, no one's really reached out to me. And he's like, I'm just so thankful that it was you. So we started talking again, and like by this time he was like, you know, I'm thinking of going to graduate school. And I was like, you know what? You should check out Seattle. I was like, you would really like Seattle. Because he was living in New Mexico his whole life. And after living in Seattle for a long time, I was like, he would be perfect here. So he ended up going to school there. And then I went up to Seattle to visit a friend. And we were talking about getting back together. And then I like went to his house and we hung out and whatever. And then I went back to my friend's house and I just called him, and there was something about his voice that was off. And I was just like, you're seeing someone, aren't you? And he's like, yeah. And I was like, why me? Like, why do you always string me along? Like, you could literally, you can have whoever the hell you want. Seattle chicks, Albuquerque chicks, it doesn't matter. Sorority girls across the street. Like, you literally can date whoever you want, obviously. So like, why me? And I just hung up on him. I don't really care to hear the answer. A couple years later, I was coming back up from Baja, and I was super tan and super skinny, and like I looked so cute. And he was at Frontier, and he basically saw me and like stared at me, and I would not say hi. I wouldn't even take off my sunglasses. I was just like, no, like, you're dead to me, dead. But yeah, that was my first love.
What about your first heartbreak?
That was him.
Same.
Literally ripped my heart out.
How did that feel?
Ugh. Truly, like, that's when you know you have daddy issues, is when you go through shit like that and you're like, fuck, like, this really is hitting me harder. Yeah. Like, it did take me longer to get over it, and it still affects me. You know what I mean? So it's, I don't know, I think you live and you learn, and you kind of learn what kind of things to avoid in guys, I guess. And I mean, I will say this, I am seeing a Virgo right now, so I did cancel out Virgos for forever, but I did meet a good Virgo, so I'm trying to give them like love again. But yeah, Tauruses are like, if you cross a Taurus, like, no, like, you're not gonna come back across the line. So I mean, I excommunicated an entire sign because of this guy. So
who would you say first taught you love, and how?
My mom. And through touch. My mom is very, even to this day, like, if my mom tickles my arm, or my mom can calm me down. Like, if I'm having an anxiety attack, like I used to get really bad panic attacks and I'd hyperventilate, like my mom just like caressing my hair or like playing with my like skin and like just like light touch, like tickles and scratches, like that calms me down. And like I remember that from like a very young age, as just being very close to my mom. And she would have like full-on conversations with me. So like I have very early memories of my mom. I remember my mom when I was like 2 for sure. Like I've told her things that we've done, and she's just like, how do you remember that kind of thing? But yeah, I think other people noticed it too. Like my mom was in Germany. It's not like she could talk to anyone else, you know? So of course she talked to me like I was her best friend. But I think it made me a good writer. I think it made me really conversational. But yeah, my mom is that like, I like gravitate towards that like caress almost. Which is why now I get irritated when I date guys that aren't cuddly, because I'm like, what the hell? Like, why are you here if you're not gonna cuddle me? Like,
I agree. What's love to you now? Has it always been the same? And obviously, love grows. So if it's changed, what's the difference?
Love has changed.
So what are the
for me,
the major differences for you?
Not having any ownership in it. not having any possession to it. Like it's just more amorphous than I ever treated it before. I always treated it, I come from a Catholic family, so things are very rigid in the way I was brought up. But I've been practicing Nichiren Buddhism since 2012. And we chant Nam-myoho Renge-kyo morning and evening. And it really started to shift my belief systems on how you display love, what love really looks like, what love sounds like. And I think Americans have like a possession aspect on love, or I was at least kind of raised like that, where love was very like, if you do this, then I love you. And like, or like my aunt was like that really bad. She's passed away, but she would like mess with my like love meter. Like I was just like, wait a second, like I thought love was all this, and you're making it be conditional. So I think like it really is kind of how you're taught like to receive love as well, the way you give it. I don't know. I think now as an adult though, I think there's different types of love. I think there's different meters of love. There's different depths of love. And I'm happy that I've experienced, I think, quite a few of them. And I'm excited to hopefully experience more. But yeah, I think it definitely is self-generated, and you can also push it out and impact a lot of other people through your own inner self-love.
Can you tell me what's a general good day for you? Like when you wake up or you go through the day, you're like, man, today's a good day.
Let's see. Well, like, how honest should I be?
As honest as you can be. As honest as you
Well,
can be.
like, if I'm hanging out with a certain gentleman, then I would start the day that way.
Yeah.
And then I would go smoke a bowl, because I just enjoy waking and baking and then going back to sleep for like 30 minutes. But I'm not sleeping. I'm like planning my day.
No, I get it.
So then I like yoga, and I have my teacher training. I just don't really share it with very many people. So if I'm by myself or if I'm with someone, like my day is different. Like if I'm with someone, I'll like make breakfast, because I like to make things for people. I like to share things with people, and I also like food. So anything that like involves like creating something to eat for the day, or like packing a lunch for the day, like I just enjoy eating. So I like to make sure that is tackled. And then, yeah, like yoga body movement is great for me to start my morning. And then I always like to chant in the morning. They tell you to chant 7 a.m. and 7 p.m. However, living in Las Vegas, I've noticed I'm not a very like 9 to 5 person anymore. So I just chant whenever. And then I kind of like to scroll through like emails that I've missed, and just kind of, I get my planner. I'm still the person that like physically writes in my planner. Like I don't have like Apple's not telling me about my day. I like write that shit down. I don't know. If it's in the ether, it's like not real to me. So yeah, so then I usually I'll go to work from 9 to 2. That's what I've been doing lately, but this job means nothing to me. So I'm applying to a lot of other jobs right now, and I'm also starting my own business, and I'm starting a nonprofit. So I have a lot of things that I do. So it kind of just depends on the day. Lately, they've been letting me work remotely, though, so I'm taking this experience as like a push to get a lot of work done as far as all those balls that I have go.
What about a bad day? What's a bad day like for you, and how do you get through that bad day?
Well, I smoke a bowl. If I'm having a bad day, I smoke a bowl, because there is nothing like some indica that can really put you back into like your grounded earth energy, where it's like, does this even matter? Like if I'm having a bad day, it's usually when I feel rushed, because like I said, I'm a Taurus, so I like to take things like at my pace. So if I feel like I'm on too many appointments, like if I've scheduled too many things back to back and I haven't had like my time to like recollect myself, then that will like really stress me out. That'll put me in a bad mood. And then I'll probably drink wine before bed, and then I'll be mad at myself for drinking wine before bed because I'm trying to lose the COVID weight. So yeah, it's just, I don't know. Or if I'm having a really bad day, I'll call Danielle, or I'll call Kayla, or I used to call Hannah, but she doesn't really call me back anymore. I don't know. I don't usually call my mom. I'll call my sister.
Yeah.
And like we'll just shoot the shit, or we'll talk shit, or we'll just vent. Yeah.
What's a person or an event that shaped you, good or bad?
I know which event I want to say, but I don't know if I want to like share it.
Might as well.
Yeah. So it shaped me like so wholeheartedly that I don't even think I'm like the same person like internally anymore. It kind of shifted my perception of reality for a little while.
What was it?
I was followed, and then I was arrested because I hopped a fence to get away from the person following me. And when I was arrested, a lot of interesting things happened. And then I was taken to a house that was basically created really quickly, and I was housed there for 2 days. There were...
Your hair?
Oh. I was housed there for 2 days. It kind of just seemed like I was being observed. People asked me questions. Honestly, it was really interesting being arrested on airport ground. There's like police, and then there's like police, like internal police, like stuff that you don't want to mess around with. And yeah, basically I was doing some volunteer work for a woman who was running for president. Her name is Marianne Williamson. And I can't say exactly why I was followed, but I was followed. And on the first incident, it was with a woman. And then I told my friend to drop me off closer to the airport and that I was going to go home on foot. I was trying to get back to Denver. And then a guy hopped out of the bushes. And that's when I ran. And I ran really fast. You could say the adrenaline was like really pumping through me. And he was still behind me. And I basically had to make a choice to keep running and potentially have a guy I don't know catch up to me and do God knows what to me. Or I hop this barbed wire fence to my right and I go on airport grounds and try and flag someone down to help me. And so I made a split decision and I hopped the barbed wire fence. And when I got down, I remember I was like, it was really crazy. I like looked around and I couldn't see the guy anywhere. And I was just like, oh my God, am I losing my mind? And so I run to the lights and I just sat by the light. And I was like, if I stay by this light, like someone's going to find me. And hopefully it's the people that I want to have find me. And it was really interesting. The Homeland Security people were really in my face. And they were like, what drugs are you on? What drugs are you on? Where were you before here? And they just kept asking me these really leading questions. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. I'm like, and all I just kept saying is, I had called her earlier that day. I called Gloria Allred because I didn't know who else to call. I had met her one time and she gave me her card. And I called her and I was just like, I'm being followed and I don't know what to do. And they basically said to get there. And I was like, I can't get there. I'm like, I have to leave Los Angeles. I'm like, this place is not safe for me. So I just told the truth the entire time and no one wanted to hear what I had to say. Like they wanted me to say that I was sex trafficked, or you know what I mean? Like there's just this girl, no one knows where she's from and she's like on airport property. Like, and I didn't have the right answers. They didn't like my answers. And so I was basically just like, I've been being followed all day. I don't know what else to do. So yeah, they didn't know if they were arresting me or if they were putting me in what's it called? They put you in like a lockup where basically they evaluate you and whether or not you're mentally ill. And so they basically said I was bipolar and they put me on bipolar meds and they kept me for 2 weeks and I eventually was released. A lot of crazy stuff happened there. And it's crazy that they can pump you full of what they pump you full of. And what's even crazier is that I kind of like for a second started to like lose my basis of reality. And because I had all of these things in me and I haven't been on them for a year and I'm fine. And I was never on them before that either. So it was just, I don't know, they want you to follow a script so that you can get out. And it's like, no, like you don't understand. Like I was being followed. Mm-hmm. So it was really intense. It messed up my life. I got a letter from Homeland Security charging me $25,000. Yeah, I haven't paid that. Haven't paid my student loans. You're certainly not getting the money, Homeland Security. Especially since you were so helpful. Yeah, it was a crazy time. And then after, everything that we've learned about Trump, I'm like, no wonder I was followed. No wonder that happened to me. No wonder there were weird people adding me on Facebook, like for a long time. So I wasn't surprised. It's hard to talk about. It's hard to like kind of wrap your head around that something like that happened. But I don't know. I just made a split decision to hop that fence and get away from that guy.
What would you say has inspired you and why?
I inspire myself every freaking day. Every day that I get up and I still try and help people. I will not stop until my nonprofit is off the ground. I will not rest until that yoga studio exists and people can go there who really need it, because I've been that homeless girl. I've been that victim of domestic violence. I've been all those labels. That's not who I am. That's not what I am. I'm not any of those things. What people see of me, that's on them. That's their perception. Do I love myself every day? Hell yes, I do. Finally. It's taken a long time, but I do. And I'm excited about what I'm doing. I mean, talk about like years and years working as a cocktail waitress, like hating my life. Like I had the balls to leave that profession. I had the balls to leave Denver in a car that's about to break down. Like everything I do, I push my own envelope. I'm just like, all right, what else can we do? Because there's a lot of people that keep trying to hold me back. And it's just like bob and weave. And I've been pivoting my whole life. Pivot. Reminds me of my basketball days.
What would you say has been a humbling experience for you?
Oh, that same experience. My God, being in jail, not knowing what's happening to you, who you can trust, being put in a psych ward, being given bipolar meds. I mean, trying to explain to your family what just happened to you and not sound like you're losing your mind. Like, talk about humbling. Having scars on your legs of going over a barbed wire fence to get away from someone, yeah, that's pretty freaking humbling.
So the next question, if you could go in your mind and think, this life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate with the word war.
So I would say the internal struggle that I feel like we're kind of taught how to have and we're instilled with. And when I started chanting in 2012, I had a really intense out-of-body experience. And a lot of things started to make sense for me in a way where they talk about like pineal gland activation, I guess is the closest thing that I can relate it to. But my Catholicism beliefs, my beliefs from when I went to Catholic school, my beliefs from my family, all of it was kind of shattered in like that second of like having that out-of-body experience and just really being in this like ether of peace and really feeling what peace is. And then coming back into my body with like a re-energized me. I almost felt like I went through like a godly shower almost, where I was just like, I'm like fresh and new. Like, what is this? But yeah, chanting Nam-myoho Renge-kyo and really honing in on what are my beliefs and what are beliefs that have been put on me. And making that kind of the center of who I am now is my Gohanzan, is my relationship to myself. That's what's important to me. I don't think any of this other shit that's happened even matters. I don't even think our conversation over the last 30 minutes even matters, truly. The most important thing I think I've said is Nam-myoho Renge-kyo.
What about, so same type of question, Go in your mind and think. This life event can be mental, physical, or spiritual. Tell me about a time in your life that you can relate to the word peace.
Remembering when I was at war with myself and what it felt like to be out of it.
Can you describe a little bit more about how that felt?
It felt like a weight was legitimately lifted off of my chest. I've had supernatural things happen to me my entire life. So there was definitely a high vibration around me, you could say. And coming back into my body with the knowing of what I kind of had already experienced before. I mean, we believe in reincarnation. Like Nichiren Buddhism believes in reincarnation. And it was almost like I finally felt like I was like in this life. Like I was finally fully here. Like I was finally fully free. Like to be here. And I chose to be here. So when you experience that level of peace, all of that stuff that had happened in the past, that like battle, that inner battle that I was having, that was gone. And like I said, getting rid of what people told me to think or what people told me how to feel or what to believe. And just really, really, when you meditate and you chant, you're pulling something out of yourself. And I did that. And I can't explain what happened. I don't tell very many people about it. But yeah, they call it attaining enlightenment is the closest thing I can explain it to. And when I say peace and I say vibes, I mean the dopest Tahoe OG indica has nothing on what happens when you attain that level of enlightenment when you chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Like, it was crazy.
What has been the most difficult time in your life, and how did that time in your life feel?
Most difficult. There's probably like 10. I can think of 10 times in my life that have been like, holy shit, difficult. Yeah. But what was the question? The most difficult time in your life and what?
And how it felt.
How it felt. I would say, it's so hard. There's so many. Okay, I'm going to go with one that really stands out. Deciding that I was going to apply not to a California school, not to a Seattle school, but a school in the middle of the desert where no one could come be with me, so I could be by myself. And I was terrified to get on this plane. I was terrified to send myself these boxes. I was terrified to leave my mom. I was just like, what am I doing? I had no money. I literally had my like graduation $500. And it's like, all right, Kelly, like, here you go. Here's life. And you don't know any of these people and you don't know where you're going and you have no car, but here you go. So that was one of those moments where I was just like scared shitless. I cried the entire plane ride. But this really nice guy next to me, he went to UNM and he was just like, you can just keep crying. It doesn't bother me. He was like eating Cheez-Its and he's like, I live in dorm blah, blah, blah. If you ever need anything. And I was just like, okay. But I'm glad I did it because when you look back on moments like that, and I look at all the awesome experiences I had at UNM, all of the amazing connections that I've made, all of the friendships that I still have. And you look back on it like that, and it's like, damn, that was ballsy, but I'm glad you freaking did it. Because you wouldn't be sitting where you're at right now if you didn't go to New Mexico that day.
What's been a truly joyous moment in your life, and how did that moment feel?
Truly joyous. You know what? There's not really one moment that strikes me. It's all the times that I'm with my family, like my whole family. And like I said, a lot of them aren't here now. So that's kind of more of a memory that I like to experience. Like I go to church still sometimes to kind of feel their presence. But yeah, I would say a really joyous moment was probably my cousin Jennifer's wedding, because that was the last time that everyone was still alive and still together, and she just looked so beautiful. And my godson was one, and he was in a little suit. He looked so cute. And it was basically just like a really awesome day coming from a family that is like very disjointed and does not get along. It was just a really awesome moment for everyone to kind of be there to experience that love that we have for Jennifer and that we have for her son. And, you know, it sucks because my grandmother and aunt and grandfather died shortly after, and we haven't really had much of a relationship. I haven't seen that godson in over 14 years, I'd say, 13 or 14 years. But I do hope to have a relationship with him now that he's kind of older and everyone's older, and, you know, I'm not struggling in LA or going to school in New Mexico. So I can really be a good godmother. You know what I mean?
What keeps you up at night?
Nothing anymore. I mean, it used to be like, you know, my student loan debt. You know, like my housing. My housing's always, I never have solid housing. I mean, ever since my family passed, like I just kind of float. I'm just not as solid as some of my friends, which I used to rag on myself for, but now I'm just like, I kind of embrace it. I like my ability to kind of hop around and not be so stationary. It's definitely allowed me a lot of opportunities, and I've definitely met a lot of really great people. So honestly, most things don't keep me up. Like I said, I just smoke a bowl and then I go to sleep. I'm not a tosser and turner, and I really don't care like what people think about me. So I'm not sitting there like, ooh, did I say this right? I'm like, I said it. I mean, sometimes I'll think about my mom and like, I wish that relationship was better. And I do worry about my sister when I'm not in the same city as her. I will lose sleep over Allison Callan. You know who you are.
What keeps you going every day?
These great business plan ideas that I have. I've had some of these awesome ideas for a really long time, but I've had to kind of like maneuver and align my life to get to a point where it's like ready to be the container, to be the base container of what I'm trying to build. And so I have a $25,000 startup loan that I got from Women's Economic Ventures. That keeps me going. That knowing that they believed in one of my business plans and they see what I'm trying to do, and they're going to give me that kind of money as a startup, like, hello, like, yes, I have to do this. Like, thank you for this opportunity, ladies. Like, the way I was brought into weave, the way that I got to do weave, I mean, I would just be an idiot if I didn't pursue that, you know, and to make that happen. And everything that I've created is created around helping people and helping communities, because I know what it's like to have freaking no help at all. And I also know what it's like to work with groups of women that are badass in their social endeavors as well as their business endeavors. I mean, I've worked for several small business owners that are female, and I think it's given me a really keen advantage on what I want to do next.
So imagine you're in the hospital today with only hours to live. What would be your regrets?
How do you ask? You should put that one at the very end.
If any.
Oh my God. Well, not having a baby, I guess. If it was like in 5 hours, I'd be like, oh man. I definitely wanted to try that in my like early 40s. My grandmother had like her children late, had my mom really late. So I believe in my ability to have children late in life. Okay. But I would say that, and not going to Wales because I want to see where my grandmother is from, and I want to see where my grandfather met her, and I want to go down that like little memory lane. I'd be sad if I passed without being able to do that.
So obviously you're here. Do you feel that you can change any of those regrets you just said or make amends?
Yeah, I mean, I think I can definitely still go to Wales, and I think I think anything with like my mom and my sister, we are Trinity. There's the three of us. Like, we're not going anywhere. Like, we are totally solid. Yeah, do I want to work on all of those relationships? Yes, I am. But I also have to work on like this relationship, and that's what I've been focusing on, like more than anything. It's just like my relationship with myself. And I think all of these things are going to get better, like the more solid I get with my own game plan.
You told me what your dreams were as a kid. What are your dreams now?
I would like to start a nonprofit yoga studio that helps people in transition. And I want to open them in several different states, states that I have been homeless in. Yoga studios really helped me when I was homeless, and in ways that I don't even think they know. And wellness has always helped me in times when people are trying to give you medicine, when you're like, no, I just need to go for a walk. And I think providing people with avenues to success, people that wouldn't ordinarily ask for help or guidance, I think just having resources available for them is something that would make me basically go to sleep at night thinking like I'm a boss. Like I don't have to do anything else. I helped these communities. I created programs that hopefully are going to be there for, generation after generation. Like I hope I create things that are cool and interesting enough and helpful enough that will be here in 100 years.
You're the co-author of Your Life Book. What's your picture perfect ending?
I just see in Thelma and Louise when they're like they're like have the roof down and they're just like driving over the thing. Like I have two. Is that bad? I basically have two. Okay. I have two picture perfect endings. So one is like I'm with a gentleman and we're in like France and like there's like wine and I'm like smoking a joint and it's just like we just go off the edge kind of thing. Or I'm with like my mom and my sister and we're just like, wow! And we're also going off the edge. Or maybe it's a minivan and everyone's in the minivan with me and we're all just going over the edge. No, I mean, like I said, I believe in reincarnation, so I'll be back.
That's it.
Sweet. Air pound, COVID pound.
How was it?